Greetings, everybody. Welcome to the Narrative Breakdown. So, this is a new show that I'm doing. It's something I've been wanting to do for a long time where I will be breaking down various clips or scenes or lyrics or, things from television, movies, music, podcasts, whatever it may be that creates a narrative. I find a lot of value in stories, in storytelling, the power of the written word and how those things have the ability to impact our lives and be quite therapeutic, frankly, in some ways. And so, one thing that I've wanted to do for a long time is to just kind of share some of my thoughts and insights on certain, stories in their various formats and how those things relate to us in our lives, whether it be our relationships, our mental health, or our recovery. And so, um, before we begin, though, I just want to remind everybody to please go ahead and subscribe to our channel. That really helps. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're watching this on Facebook or other platforms, please head on over to our YouTube channel, and you can subscribe by going to the handle that you see on your screen and get on over there, subscribe to our channel. It really helps. If you want to check out our other media platforms, you can find us on Facebook, and this is also broadcasting live on Facebook, so feel free to share it, to head over there. But we are also on Instagram and TikTok here, as you can see right there. But as I said before, as always, subscribing to our channel, liking and sharing our videos really helps get the word out there. So if you find any value in some of this work that we're doing, I would really appreciate that. I'd also like to ask you guys just to kind of bear with me a little bit. You might see me looking down or looking away because I am also working the switcher board that throws those graphics up on your screen, as you see. And so if I pause a little bit, I might be working the graphics differently. I'm not a great multitasker. My colleagues can tell you that, and anybody that knows me well knows that I can't do that. So as soon as I look away at something else, my train of thought goes to that and not this. So I apologize for that. So just bear with me here. But today, what we're going to do in this episode today is that we're going to focus on the movie that came out in 2001 called A Beautiful Mind, starring Russell Crowe and some other great actors. If you haven't seen that movie, I would encourage you to go watch it. It's just a great movie all around. I don't think I'm going to give any big spoiler alerts. I mean, the thing that I'm going to talk about today is, a big part of the narrative of the story, but it's definitely not a major spoiler. But if you're worried about that and you haven't seen it, feel free to click off of this and go watch the movie, and then come back and watch my take on this one particular scene. Okay, so let me just set the stage for you a little bit here. Okay, A Beautiful Mind is a story. It's based on a true story about a real mathematician named John Nash, and he won the 1994 Nobel Memorial Prize in economics. Now, there's a whole lot more to his story, but what we're going to talk about is the theory of governing dynamics that he really kind of revised from another philosopher, economist named Adam Smith, and that kind of, at least in the movie, kind of implies this was central to why he, won the Nobel Prize and things like that. But the movie was, adapted from a book. And so I'll make sure to put links to all that in the description of this video below so that you can have access to all that when we're done. So when I'm done doing the live broadcast, I'll make sure to do that so you guys can go look at all the stuff that I was looking at. And so really quick disclaimer too is that I'm not an expert in, economy or philosophy. So a lot of this, research that I'm doing is just quick Google searches or Wikipedia searches. In this case, I want to show you my screen here where I have Bing pulled up here, where you can kind of see Adam Smith. So there he is right there on your screen. And so, feel free to do your own research, and especially if I get something wrong, feel free to correct me in the comments. But as you can read there on your screen, Adam Smith, you know, was a 18th century philosopher. He's Oxford educated, and of course his work focused on economics. And the quote we're going to be focusing on is that one that you can see on your screen here. Let me get it back on the screen. So this is what I'm talking about. Trying to get this adequate here. Okay, here we go. There it is. You see it right there on your screen that says individual ambition serves the common good. And so that's going to be the quote that we're focused on, that they're also focused on in the scene of this movie, in a Beautiful Mind. So basically, there's a lot more to this philosophy, because I believe this came from a book that Adam Smith wrote called The Wealth of Nations, that you can also see right there highlighted on your screen. But it's very complicated, because he has something called like the invisible hand, and I was reading about this, and I thought about going into it with you guys a little bit, but I just would encourage you to go read about it yourself, because I don't want to butcher it, but it's really kind of fascinating. But basically what they're talking about in the scene I'm going to show you is that John Nash is challenging this concept of individual ambition serves the common good, and they kind of talk about it in the sense of competition, is how they at least understood what Adam Smith was talking about. So basically, like, in competition, individual ambition serves the common good, which kind of a simpler way to say that is, as they say in the movie, every man for himself. So another disclaimer here, I apologize for the gender-specific terms. So from this point forward, change that, where they say every person for themselves is another way to say that. Okay, and so, and he's saying basically that, Adam Smith is wrong, or the theory is incomplete, it needs revision, and he goes into his metaphor, this story, to help illustrate why there needs to be a revision. And that's what I'm going to show you guys a clip of, and we're going to talk about that. But once again, I'm going to give you guys a disclaimer here, especially, in the world that I work in, my specialty is working with people who have dealt with betrayal trauma and sex addiction. And also, too, at the same time, this clip picks up in a bar scene, and with he and his 4 buddies, and it's just, it's almost like he came up with this theory of this revision because it was what would serve them the best to help pick up women. And so I apologize for that piece of it. I didn't write the script or the story. If they had picked a completely different metaphor, I would still would show you the clip, because it's the theory itself that makes a lot of sense in terms of how a better way for us to operate in our couple relationships. So again, I don't condone the metaphor itself, and don't encourage people to go off to college and create new theories, because it'll help them pick up men or women in bars or anything like that. And so, but I'm going to go ahead and get the clip pulled up here, and I will stop talking so you guys can hear this clip.
Incoming, gentlemen. Deep breaths. Yes, you might want to stop shuffling your papers for 5 seconds.
I will not buy you gentlemen beer. Oh, we're not here for beer, my friend.
Oh. Does anyone else feel she should be moving in slow motion?
Will she want a large wedding, you think?
Should we say swords, gentlemen? Pistols at dawn.
Have you remembered nothing? Recall the lessons of Adam Smith, father of modern economics.
In competition, individual ambition serves the common good.
Exactly.
Every man for himself, gentlemen.
And those who strike out are stuck with their friends.
I'm not gonna strike out.
You can lead a blonde to water, but you can't make her drink.
I don't think you said that.
All right, nobody move. She's looking over here. Right, she's looking at Nash.
Oh, God. All right, he may have the upper hand now, but wait until he opens his mouth. Remember the last time?
Oh, yes, that was in the history books.
Adam Smith needs revision.
What are you talking about?
If we all go for the blonde, we block each other. Not a single one of us is going to get her. So then we go for her friends. But they will all give us the cold shoulder because nobody likes to be second choice. But what if no one goes for the blonde? We don't get in each other's way, and we don't insult the other girls. It's the only way we win. Adam Smith said, the best result comes from everyone in the group doing what's best for himself, right? That's what he said, that's right? Incomplete. Incomplete. Okay? Because the best result would come from everyone in the group doing what's best for himself and the group.
Nash, this is some way for you to get the blonde on your own. You can go to hell.
Governing dynamics, gentlemen. Governing dynamics. Adam Smith. Who's wrong?
Yep, here we go.
Careful, careful.
Okay, there you go. So, that was a clip from A Beautiful Mind, and as you saw on your screen there, it's just I think they just call it "Ignore the Blonde" scene. If you want to go back and rewatch it, but also too, I will make sure to put a link to the exact clip from the channel that I also watched that on or showed you guys on, so you can go back and rewatch that if you would like, and make sure you subscribe to their channel too, because as always, if you ever been interested or involved in the whole social media thing, it does help the algorithms get your content out there when other people subscribe and like and share and things like that. So anyways, so let's break this down a little bit. All right. So again, as I mentioned before, let me get a quote pulled up for you guys real quickly. This is a quote that is from Adam Smith's book, The Wealth of Nations, that they're talking about here. And of course, the way they said it in the movie, as you saw there, is that competition, individual ambition serves the common good, and of course then he goes into his thought of like, no, it needs revision, and he makes a compelling argument for a revision. So what is that revision? So let me go to my next quote here that I'll put on your screen. This is the revision right here. So I'll give you a chance to just read that for a second. Okay, so, oops. All right, so it says, the best for the group comes when everyone in the group does what is best for themselves and the group. And of course, I changed himself to themselves, so we can be a little bit more inclusive there. So this is a really important piece that I go over a lot of times with clients on couple relationships, because this is not exactly easy to do for a lot of people. A lot of people will kind of, you might think that a lot of people actually will gravitate toward that every person for themselves theory. And I think a lot more often than not, most people kind of have a kind of a service or sacrificial mindset where they tend to do for the group first, but that often will come at the expense of self. Now, I talk about this a lot when it comes to how this works with infidelity. And of course, there is a selfish component to infidelity, but infidelity is most sexually compulsive behavior and addictions are about emotion management. So, in other words, on the surface, it looks very selfish, and it is to a degree. But a lot of times, people are compelled to, partake in those types of behaviors because they they're trying to manage their stuff and without disrupting the system. And so that's a whole other thing. I've talked about that in other live shows. I've talked about that on other YouTube videos that I've done. Feel free to go peruse some of the videos that we've done on infidelity, chronic infidelity, sex addiction, and betrayal trauma. And I can also put some links in the description below for some of those that kind of address that phenomenon. But let's just kind of talk about it in general here, and not from a sense of betrayal. That there a lot of people will often do for the group at the expense of themselves. And what we don't want to have happen is people do for themselves at the expense of the group. So we don't want that to happen either. But what that kind of creates is this kind of self-sacrificial mindset that I feel like we kind of glorify in our culture. And maybe that has some religious overtones, maybe not. But I do think we have a deep desire to help and serve others, especially, and then when you have a family, you want your partner to be happy, you want your children to be okay and to be well, and so there are kind of appropriate times for us to, in any given relational context, to take a hit here and there. The problem is that some people get really good at that, and they just take all the hits, and that might be what's good for the group, but that's really not what's good for the individual in the group, But if you never took any hits, you are just truly operating very selfishly, that might be good for you as an individual. You might completely operate as a healthy, functioning single person in that sense, but that isn't necessarily what is good for whatever group that you're in. So it's this really challenging thing of trying to do what's best for self in the group. And so here's where what makes it difficult to do, in my opinion, in couple relationships, because I do think John Nash is onto something with this. I do think that it is fitting, not just for how this works in economics theory. By the way, I think this was what inspired John Nash to what is called the Nash equilibrium theory, which is part of game theory. And so again, feel free to go and research that. That stuff is kind of over my head most of the time. So, but here again, going back to what I was saying, here is what is difficult about doing this in a couple relationship, because it challenges some of our cultural norms or philosophical approaches to relationships and what we've been taught, And so the first thing you're asking when you're making a decision is this good for me? That's the first thing. And we're not used to really doing that. Of course, when we get on an airplane, you hear this all the time, right? Because when the flight attendant comes on to give you instructions, like if the oxygen mask come down, aside from, I think the first step is breathe, don't freak out because, I think that's the first thing I would do if the oxygen mask came down. And so, but aside from that, on how to manage that intense anxiety, they say, before you secure your oxygen mask on somebody else that needs your help, secure yours first. And because the idea is that you're not going to be able to help anybody if you pass out from not being able to breathe, and so take care of yourself first so you can take care of other people. That's the idea. That's the concept here. So he's not. So Adam Smith, I know he said at the end there, Adam Smith's wrong. He's not completely wrong, and I think he kind of acknowledges that. It just needs a little revision. There is doing for yourself first is really important in terms of taking care of yourself first, but the motive is what matters. Are you doing for yourself because you think you're God's gift to this green earth? Or are you doing for yourself first because the people in your life or the people in the groups that you're a part of benefit from you more when you do that? So it's not in spite doing for yourself in spite of other people. It's doing for yourself because you care and love other people in the groups that you're a part of. So again, the first question you're asking when you're making decisions and difficult decisions on the continuum from kind of difficult to very difficult, is this good for me? That's number one. Now, once you determine that, okay, I think this would be good for me, now you have to ask the question, is this good for us? Not my partner. Not, is this good for my partner? Is this good for us? Now, you can ask in your attempt to answer that the second question, is this good for us? In your attempt to answer that, you can do your due diligence, and you can go ask your partner, like, how, this would be good for me. Would this be good for you? So that's something you can ask them. But in terms of the next question you're asking yourself is, okay, if this is good for me, is this good for us? And that's a lot more complicated because the us involves other people, or in a couple relationship involves another person. And you will make a decision based on the information you have. So what you're trying to go for is you're trying to minimize injury, or trying to minimize disruption, because you really don't know. You're just basing it off the information that you have. And so, but what is embedded in this is courtesy. You're thinking about your group and the decisions that you're making, but the first thing you got to think about is yourself and then the group. But sometimes it's like, sometimes it feels like lesser of two evils, and it gets really complicated there because I think I need to do this and this would be the better way. And then you realize later, like, I probably would do that differently. Sometimes that's just going to happen. But that's one thing I say a lot, is that there's no such thing as risk-free intimacy. So there's got to be a risk involved in it, which means that you may get it wrong. You have to allow for that, and I think that risk is why some people just don't do it at all. They just take the path of least resistance and say, you know what, I'm just going to do for the group, and I'm just going to kind of eat crap, just kind of eat it, take the hits. Because if I weigh myself in, or, kind of put my own fingerprints in the equation, then that can get complicated and it can be disruptive. Sure. Yeah. And you might make a decision that you would do differently if we were to do it, be able to do it over again. I don't believe. I think people who have no regrets are like, I have no regrets. Yeah, I just think that's denial. Regret is a very normal human experience. It means that you have the ability to reflect back upon your past and things that have happened, and learn from those things. And so, yeah, regret doesn't mean that you're dealing with an intense and living in intense shame. But it's okay to say, like, there's some things I would do differently, because if something similar happened, then I need to know that so I can do them differently next time, But our culture kind of, a lot of people really push back on this when I present this in counseling sessions, because it just goes counterintuitive to what we've been taught in our culture about, like, wait, that sounds selfish. That sounds selfish. Like, yeah, it is selfish, like, but it's not completely selfish. When it all has to do with your intent, when you're doing it for the sake of other people, it's also selfless, and like, it's like everybody wins in this deal. I mean, is that not okay to figure out a way that everybody can win, or do others have to win at my expense all the time? And so again, kind of reflecting back upon this quote, I'm going to put it back on screen for you guys real quickly. So there you have it. The best for the group comes when everyone in the group does what is best for themselves and the group. Get it back on here for you guys. Sorry. There we go. Sorry. Working that switcher board can be difficult. But yeah, if you have any thoughts or ideas on, or feel free to comment on kind of how that hits you. If you disagree with it, it's fine. I've had some of my friends disagree with me on some of my insights on some of these things, but I really do believe it's the better way, and it also just shows like a value of self. And some of the most attractive people on this planet are people that just really, they like themselves, and they're not willing to let any relationship absorb them, and get lost in that relationship. And so by taking care of asking yourself that question first, is this good for me? You're the first thing you're doing is making sure the individual is established, but then, is this good for us? And as you saw in that clip, one thing I also wanted to point out on that clip is that this doesn't mean you don't sacrifice. As you saw on the clip, again, using the metaphor that I'm not too crazy about, because just kind of exacerbates that male stereotype that everything we do is just all about picking up women or something like that. But to go back to that metaphor, there was a sacrifice being made that, we got to give up the blonde, so in this situation, a group of women walk in, and there's one that's just astoundingly more beautiful than the others. And of course, like a pack of wild dogs, these men are drooling over her. Again, as you can probably tell, just talking about this metaphor makes me uncomfortable, because I am definitely a feminist at heart. But to kind of get back to the point, is that in order for the group to get what they want, that they might have to give up what they want individually. However, are they really giving up what they want individually? Isn't what they want is a date, to have a good time with a member of the opposite sex? Isn't that what they want? And isn't that the ultimate goal also for the group? So, a lot of times, and again, I've talked about this in other videos, is that we want something, and then our minds create an idea of what that might look like. But sometimes we think that one thing is the thing that I want. And so if one person in that group, for example, fell prey to that way of thinking, they would miss the deeper point that what they want is to have a good time with a member of the opposite sex. But they could misconstrue their imagination, the message of their imagination, to say is that what I want is that blonde. It has to be the blonde girl, and then that just kind of can throw the whole, that can be damaging to the group in that sense. And so what you have to remember is that you want something, you desire something, you feel something like that, and then your imagination creates an image of what that might look like. You got to be careful of not blending the two and thinking that whatever it is that your imagination is creating, it must be that exactly. That's just one way to capture this thing that you want. You know, what you don't want to sacrifice is that thing that you want, the core of what it is you're wanting or that you're going after. You know, but you can make whether you call it a sacrifice or adjustments or alterations or whatever you want to call it, to the original idea of what that would look like. You can do that, and in fact, I think that's necessary. And so that is also represented in that clip. And so, again, doing what's best for yourself and the group does not require you to make this complete sacrifice to accomplish that, because now you're just doing what's best for the group at the expense of yourself, and that's not what it says. It's got to be what's best for self and the group. So anyways, I can go on and on about that, and I think that I did. So I appreciate you guys watching this. Feel free, if you have any comments or thoughts on it, feel free to to write those in the comments section. Also, too, if there's a movie or a movie scene or a clip or something that really impacted you and you want me to review it or look at it, feel free to post that in the comments, and I'll definitely take a look. And if I'm able to conceptualize it in a way that I feel like I feel comfortable putting it out there for the whole world to see, I will definitely consider doing that. So again, please head over to our YouTube channel if you haven't, and subscribe to that channel, and like this video if you thought it was worth your time. And I will plan on seeing you back here next time. So thanks for being here.